You are about to undertake a 2-hour experience of eye-opening, mind-expanding, revealing common sense discussion for the common sense citizen. Strap yourself in, put your trays in the upright position, remove dentures and loose jewelry, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and come along for the ride. It is time for the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN 830, and our affiliates and streaming on the TuneIn app. It's Joe time, baby.
You're live.
All right, folks, good morning and welcome to the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Boxtrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. Now, this is not the last Sunday, right? We will continue Sundays. Yesterday was the last Saturday of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. And starting this upcoming week, we'll be here Mondays and Fridays at 1 p.m., Sundays at 6 a.m. as usual. So the tradition continues on the weekend. Find us online at tjmshow.com and follow us on our social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc. You can join the conversation at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. We're live streaming on a few platforms, my Facebook page, Twitter page, my LinkedIn page, my YouTube channel, The Joe Mangiacotti Show, and even Twitch TV at Joe M Show. So several ways to peek into the studio and join us that way. Our text line is up and running, 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388, or email text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. Exactly what you're doing. Text Joe on the radio at gmail.com. It appears on the same screen in real time in the studio. We try to incorporate it into the show. You can tell Alexa to play WCRN. She'll do that. No questions asked. And of course, we are on the TuneIn app. That means we're streaming live on the TuneIn app. All right, Shane, good morning.
Good morning,
Shane,
Joe.
back behind the board.
We're back.
We took a little break.
Here. How was your week?
My week's good. My week was good. We had a little snow. We had a little freezing, a little more snow, which is all fine. I'm okay. I can hunker down. Not a problem. Work from the house, so it's good. Plus, I want to look for any excuse not to use any gasoline.
Absolutely, the way the prices are going nowadays,
and it hasn't even begun.
Yeah,
we're breaking the $5 mark. We're looking at maybe $7. And Jen Psaki tells us, "Hey, this is the way it is. People are going to spend more at the pump. What's the matter? You spoil rotten Americans." So this is where we're at, folks. Kind of crazy. Now, how have you been? You're back now on a regular alternating with Cam.
Yep, we'll be alternating every other Sunday with Joe Mangiacotti Show, Conservatively Speaking, and the Peter Blue Show.
Sounds like a plan, man. All right, so we wake up to war in Ukraine still continuing. Russia has been unable to take control of the country, unable to take control of Kyiv, the capital. And I got to tell you that the spirit and the dedication and the patriotism of the Ukrainians is something. And, watching a lot of the talking shows yesterday, they're trying to figure out, well, what's the deal here? Is Russia, are they not as good as they thought they were? Is the will of the Ukrainian people just that incredibly overwhelming? Or is it a combination of the two things? Probably a combination of the two things, I would think. So people headed for the border, headed west, they get into the border. But if you are a male between 18 and 60, you turn back there, your family can get over the border. They're doing all kinds of, watching a lot of the shows last night, news in Poland and in other nations, Moldavia, where people have just come together to set up receiving stations and volunteer with signs of the city that they can bring you to. They're putting people up in their homes. They're feeding them. They're receiving them. And unfortunately, we have a number of kids, under 18, teenagers, younger kids who are showing up at the border because the parents are either too sick to make the journey. The father's fighting. Maybe the mother is delayed, but you're having basically young children, parentless, showing up now into these countries as refugees. They're looking at, I don't know, the numbers are all over the place, but it's going to be into the millions of refugees going on there. What's going to happen? Okay. So the sanctions. What are the sanctions? Now, so CPAC has been, we didn't really talk about this, But CPAC's been going on all weekend. Shane, are you familiar with CPAC?
I'm not.
All right, so it's a yearly event. It's the conservative council. It's the PAC, right? Public. It's able to raise money for candidates. It's the conservative versions. The Democrats have a version of it, but CPAC meets. They met in Florida this year. Calling me surprised. Of course, they met in Florida this year, and of course, former President Donald Trump spoke, and he made a good point, and we'll go over his speech a little bit. We can talk about it. Overall, I thought it was a. Have you heard it? Did you watch it last night? If you did, 508-871-7000. Share your thoughts on it. Overall, I thought it was a good speech, a good tone. I think Donald Trump is a little subdued for Donald Trump, the Donald Trump we usually know at rallies. But then again, this isn't really a rally. And I'm wondering if he's conscious enough to dial it back a little bit, because in a lot of ways, this sounded like a campaign speech, not a CPAC speech. And I think that it's pretty much a given that he's going to run at this point, probably going to run for 2024. He made some good points in the speech, but one of them, he talked about the sanctions. And this is something I was saying as well the other day. The sanctions are a bouncing on. That means nothing to this guy. He's been under sanctions of one form or another for years. And they did sanctions, and they finally hit the SWIFT. Now, the SWIFT is that interbanking system that communicates with each other, that allows banks to transfer money and lend money. And it's like on your ATM card, you might have Cirrus or one of those other little logos on it, which means that even though you can go to an ATM that's not your bank, it talks to your bank. It's going to give money out of their ATM. That's their money they put in there. But it's going to instantly be transferred in the background from your bank over. And there's fees, of course. A lot of these banks, and when they open up a branch office and they put the ATM in there, they expect that ATM usually pays the mortgage on that location, by the way. That's how much traffic's through there. Point is, the SWIFT is the banking system. And we're in dangerous ground if we start with the SWIFT, but they only restricted 80%. So my question, of course, and I haven't seen this answered, nor have I seen it asked yet, what's the other 20%? Because if we haven't restricted the ability for Russia to receive payment for gas and oil, the energy, we're back to energy. It's all about the energy, folks. It doesn't really matter. If they can continue to sell gas and oil around the world, around the globe, and get paid for it, he's got all the money he needs to continue to finance this war. And I was going to say irony, but the stupidity of this, folks, is we buy 500,000 barrels of oil from Russia a day. We turn off the Keystone Pipeline, which makes 800,000 barrels of oil a day, which causes us from going, a part of why we went from an energy exporting nation, energy independent and exporter, to now an importer and not energy independent. We buy 500,000 barrels of oil from Russia a day. We could flip that switch, put the Keystone back on, lighten up these oil leases, start the fracking, at least temporarily, and get that out of 3-digit oil. We're over $100 a barrel. They're talking about going to 150. Well, that 500,000 barrels a day that we buy from Russia goes away, and we have a net of 300 a day that we can export. Maybe export it to Germany. Heck, at this point, I'd give it to Germany for nothing, just so they're not dependent, because they've been holding back a little bit. Italy's been a little quiet on all of this, and China has shown their stripes, of course. I mean, Joe Biden consistently calls it wrong here. We share our intelligence with China, hoping that or this is what Biden thinks, that they're going to then help us negotiate something with Putin to withdraw or stop this. And they just turn around and share that information with Putin. That isn't that great for us, folks. Is not great for us. So we have sanctions that aren't really going to do anything. And I've seen interview after interview with reporters on the scene there. I'm sure you've seen the same. You're watching the same thing. You're bouncing between Fox and CNN and the networks. And CNN, for the domestic stuff, the jamokes that they have on there, they're a joke. They've got all these problems. The president out of there in disgrace. Cuomo fired. You got 2 producers arrested for pedophilia and trapping underage and all that. So they got their problems. But they do have a network of news bureaus around the globe. They've pulled some of the old correspondents out of retirement and put them back out there, like the Moscow branch. So they are good at getting eyes on wherever the conflict is on the planet. You got to give them credit for that. This will help their ratings, and you're getting information that is live and we hope is accurate. It's hard to trust that network. But the point is, we're getting interviews and real pictures in real time of Ukraine, in Kyiv, in Lviv, and in all of those Crimea, Belarus, all of it. Okay. So we've got that going on. You're watching this, and they've all said the same thing. When the president sits there and he says, "Yeah, we'll put these sanctions on and we'll revisit it in a month or so." What's that doing to the spirit and the hope of the typical Ukrainian who hears that? They can't hold on for a month. They can't do that. They can't see where things are in a month. It's as if Joe Biden has no empathy at all, no understanding of the pain at all. A month. See where we are in a month. Now, if we also start attacking on the SWIFT and the ability to pay, we could see some things happen that may not be the best either globally. India is already working on its own pay system. He can switch right over to China, who has plenty of money. And China would love this foot in the door to change the universal currency of the planet to the yen from the dollar. They'd love to see that happen, of course. It's all part of their bigger plan, isn't it? So we have sanctions that really aren't going to do anything. Plus, he knew they were coming. He gets around them, right? He goes through China. He goes through other countries. That's really not going to deter him at this point. The invitation to come to Belarus to have a peace talks, yeah, Zelensky's not that stupid. That's a meeting he's never coming back from. And we offer him a chance to get out of there, which, by the way, the goal of Putin is to get Zelensky out of there. And we're offering to do that, in essence, for Putin. And of course, his response is, "I don't need a ride. I need ammunition. I need help." And he keeps popping up and speaking to his people, which I think is just giving such hope. And it's keeping them going, because he didn't hop in a helicopter filled with all kinds of money and screw out of there like other leaders did when things got a little hot. So he's instilling a great deal of patriotism and hope into the people of Ukraine. He's turning out to be a heck of a leader. So good for him and good for that. But it is brutal. They've hit apartment buildings. They're going after the power plants. A couple oil depots have been on fire all night this past night. They're in the streets. Some are armed with weapons. Some are armed literally with kitchen knives. And the question is, why all this? Remember how we were always told how Donald Trump is the puppet of Putin? Seriously, can you still believe that? Because Putin didn't step out of line at all in the 4 years he was president. He annexed Crimea under the Biden-Obama administration, And now he started this war with Ukraine under the Biden administration, but he didn't do anything under the Trump years. If it was a puppet, if that was Putin's puppet, would he not use that opportunity to annex real estate? Well, his puppet was in the White House. So that's how ridiculous it is if you're on that thought process, guys. And we still have so many things with the Biden administration. You got to try to, why is Biden doing the things he's doing? Why is he making the decisions? Or why is he having the inaction that he's having? But you got to think back about the things that have never been answered, really, right? The $3.5 million from the wife of the Moscow mayor to the Bidens. Media didn't do their job. That was never explained. Why is the mayor of Moscow, via his wife, sending the Bidens $3.5 million? There is so much incestuary going on here with the Biden family in Ukraine and China, but nobody wants to ask those questions and nobody wants to look into that. So did you listen to or watch any of Donald Trump's speech last night at CPAC? CPAC meets every year. Trump gave a speech at the 2021 when it was in Dallas in July. And you got to wonder, what is the plan here? Now, I guess because of the financial records and the way you have to report things, Trump isn't going to make any kind of official announcement until after the midterms. And in his speech last night, he made it clear that we Republicans, he means, have got to take the House and the Senate in 2022, November 8th, and that the Democrats are going to be blown away by what happens. And what happens in November of 2024, of course, making reference to the presidential elections. Now, there were no wars started during the Trump administration. Matter of fact, we had great breakthroughs in peace coming around the world. The Abraham Accords, where Israel was sitting down with Middle Eastern leaders at the same table, agreeing to open up direct flights into Israel and diplomatic relations, things that no one ever thought that we would see. Trump was literally bringing peace to the Middle East. And he did it in a way that the old establishment said, you can't do that, and it won't work. And no one really thought of. But again, this guy is not an insider. He's not someone who's come up as a governor or a senator or even held any elected position, including dog catcher, nothing. He's a businessman, a real estate developer. And being in real estate, buying and being a landlord and all that, it's all, trust me, no scale like this, but someone who's been a landlord and has been in real estate for years, it's all about solving problems and figuring out and getting around it. And he looked at this and he decided, instead of trying to go directly head on with some of these nations, right, you get the consensus and agreement of all the nations around the troubled nation, Iran, say, and you apply the pressure until they really don't have any alternative but to go along with it. So this is you look at the issues that went on during the Obama presidency. He annexes Crimea. He did Georgia before, and he's always doing it when fuel is up, right? When the cost of gas is high, because when the cost of gas is high, he has a strong revenue stream. And this time around, Joe Biden created that for him. Joe Biden created that for him. So it is energy independence that was keeping him at bay or keeping his revenue down because we weren't buying that fuel. And now he makes $1 billion a day in this. Now, that does go a long way to helping him keep a war going and fueling those tanks and soldiers fed, aircraft flying, ammunition. My opinion, the way sanctions aren't going to do it. We're running a dangerous game on the SWIFT thing. We don't want him to turn totally to China. We certainly don't want nations starting to deal internationally with yen. We've always enjoyed the American dollar being the world currency. So I think one of the first things that this administration needs to do, and he can tell the squad and the progressive left, just chill out, take a break. This is an emergency we have to deal with. And we've got to produce energy. We have to stop being dependent on Russia and OPEC. And we have to start sending energy, it's gas and oil, folks, to European nations, our allies, obviously NATO allies. But the biggest thing that we're afraid of here, folks, and that we do not want to see happen is Article 5 kicking in because he has taken Ukraine. Now he is boarded up against NATO nations. And we, by contract, have got to go in there. And now you have two nuclear powers standing nose to nose. This is not something that we want to see. It is something I thought that we wouldn't see because both nations, all nations with nuclear weapons, knew the cost of crossing that line. And that's why we work so hard to stop nations that we don't think have that self-discipline from getting nuclear weapons. Because if you're a nation that believes in jihad, believes in 72 virgins, and believe it's a good thing to die, you don't want them to have nuclear weapons. And that's why we work hard to not to allow it. 508-871-7000. What say you? Did you watch any of Trump's speech, by the way, at CPAC last night? Let me go to Mark in Worcester, who's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Mark. You look marvelous.
I don't feel marvelous. I watch my country go in a hell in a handbasket.
I agree.
You look like you got the Three Stooges running the show. Doesn't give you a lot of confidence, does it?
No, there's no confidence, Mark, right now with our current leadership.
You know, Ukraine, I knew nothing about it. So I went online and I looked up the history of Ukraine. But they have a very interesting history, you know, particularly in World War II. And I looked up, there was a division of the German army called the 14th Waffen Grenadier Division of the SS. First Galatians, made up entirely of Ukrainian volunteers. They called them the Twaniki soldiers. Those are short for German for volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
They were members of the SS.
Mm-hmm.
Strutstaffel.
Yeah. Bad
dudes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
And a lot of Ukrainians served the Germans in the SS, in the Waffen SS. Now, there was a second component to the SS who were the death heads, the guys who ran the extermination camps. Okay?
Yeah.
They were full with Ukrainian volunteers. They participated in something called Operation Reinhard for the extermination of guess who. And they essentially ran in Ukraine the extermination camps at Belzec, Sobibor, and Treblinka, too, were mostly run by the Ukrainians, volunteers for the Death Head SS. Did you know that?
Not in those details, but I do know that, and this is one of the reasons why Putin is telling his people that one of the things he needs to do is rid Ukraine of the Nazis. He's holding that over, right? He's saying
now most of these volunteers in the division that I talked about, the Grenadier Division, they're also called the 1st Ukrainian Division, UNA. Look up the UNA of that time, and very interesting. I can't go on too much further, but they were saying that the Galatian 14th Waffen SS Division had 80,000 members at one point. They served from April of 1943 to the way they were disbanded in April of 1945, the end of the war. And it goes on and on and on. So they were, they have a very interesting history. I'll leave it at that. You can look it up for yourself. It's quite a revelation to me, anyways. Have a good one, brother. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Mark. Now, the thing about what's going on there now, although we do have to take a break at 30 minutes and a half after the hour here. So segment 1 of Sunday's edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Come back on the other side, folks, and we'll continue with the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios, 508-871-7000.
So I think that was the old theme music for the Joe Mangiacotti Show. What does Cam normally use for outros? Does he just pick any song, or do you have a specific one that you want going out?
You need a private investigator. Don't let your emotions negatively affect your future. Get your answers through a Massachusetts licensed private investigator. Get the facts without risking your credibility by unknowingly committing a criminal offense.
There's like a ton of stuff on your wall in here that like looks really old and stuff that doesn't really need to be here. So I think in the next few weeks here, I'm going to try to clean it up, because there's so many things on here and so many like spots and things that you don't use anymore. Like for your spots you're using, I have LPDAM, FFH, Levante's Auto School, and I have your Out with Joe spots. What else do you like to play?
Files from the LPDM or anytime at LPDMcasefiles.com.
Real estate one. Now, in the next couple of days, a lot are going to be changed because I got to wipe out all the old promos. Do the new promos. I'm going to do them today, so he has them tomorrow morning.
Today's candidate
Monday,
is
Friday, Sunday.
four-year-old male.
So all the old promos are going to have to get killed, and the new promos will run. And then what they normally do is they play my theme music, and they're singing. I don't know if it's attached or if they play the most interesting man in the world.
Plenty of manners and expects the same from both human and dog.
Like,
For Moto, this means
the
taking
most
the time
interesting
to
man in the
know
world.
who is a
Shots
gentleman
have a
who
week
prefers
dedicated
to
to him.
exchange pleasantries
Like it's okay.
and go for a walk rather than to chest pump the high five type greeting that more outgoing individuals prefer. He is past that puppy stage and in the prime of his life. Moto is looking forward to living as the only dog in a quiet adult home. Moto's motto is relax and take it easy. If you share the same philosophy, Moto might like to meet you. For more on Moto, click Teddy Goodpup's Facebook page. Pictures and links to the Worcester Animal Rescue League. Find a Her Home is brought to you by Box Drop Middlesex Mattress Outlet. Click boxdropmiddlesex.com or Facebook at Box Drop Middlesex.
We know why you're awake. Your child is about to get their driver's license. Levante's Auto School offers 1-week driving programs to help make sure your child stays safe and focused behind the wheel.
877 Drive. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
Learn to drive safely and efficiently. Visit one of our 5 locations throughout Massachusetts. Click Levante'sAutoschool.com.
Levante's Auto School shows you how to learn the rules and keep your cool. 877 Drive. Who's Ed? That's the number for Levante's Auto School.
We're going to lunch. We're going to lunch. This is Out with Joe. With Joe Mangiacotti.
Actually, honey, we're going to lunch.
Restaurants, food and drink, entertainment.
Have some bacon on a biscuit and
Let's go. Now it's time to go out with Joe.
Welcome to this edition of Out with Joe, brought to you by Levante's Auto School. With 5 locations, click LevantesAutoSchool.com to find one near you. I'm Joe Mangiacotti. And this week, Teddy's on the Hill opens in the former Red Hat space. More on this, we invite into the conversation Mark Hurwitz from NECN in Dig, Boston. Hey, Mark.
How you doing, Joe?
Welcome to Out with Joe. So what is going on over there in the old West End and Red Hat, which is, I know, a place you used to hang out a bit, and I did too.
Yeah, well, we had a bit of a scare last June because the Red Hat closed after being in business since 1907. And immediately after it closed, we heard that a new owner, Jake Nicholson, was planning to breathe life into the space. So he recently opened in late January, actually, Teddy's on the Hill, which basically it pays tribute to the Red Hat, but also has a refreshing, the menu is a little different, upgraded, and the space was renovated a bit, but they do definitely pay tribute to the old Red Hat.
Well, that was such a mainstay and a landmark for, like you said, I didn't even realize it goes back to 1907.
It's old.
The inside, they didn't do a complete redo. They just freshened it up a little bit, or did they really wipe it clean?
They did a pretty good renovation on it, but they kept it the same style basically as the old Red Hat, and the menu has a lot of the same items that you would see in the Red Hat. So, like nachos, burgers, wings, and of course, beer, wine, and cocktails. But one thing of interest is they're also serving South Shore style bar pizza, which is the only place in downtown Boston where you can get South Shore style bar pizza.
I think for some of our listeners, you have to explain exactly what South Shore style bar pizza is.
Well, it's an individual pizza. It's 9 or 10 inches in diameter, and it's a mix of mozzarella and cheddar cheese that extends all the way to the crust, and you can get it with burnt or laced edges, so it caramelizes along the edge. It's just a little like Greek pizza, but not really. It's fairly greasy. It's got like almost a shortbread crust, and they're small enough so that you order one and you can eat the whole thing with whatever you're drinking, your beer or whatever. But they're really good, and mostly on the South Shore only.
Well, it's great pub food, right? That kind of pizza is awesome. All right, and they're going to go after, again, the college students, the medical profession, the politicians. Who do you think? Who are they targeting?
Yeah, I think all the above. And back in the day, the Red Hat was actually catering to all the accountants. There's a lot of accountants who work in that area, but it's going to cater to business people, medical people at the State House will be going
About 1 minute till we're back.
And yeah, definitely people from Suffolk University and maybe Emerson, which isn't too far away. So I'm guessing it'll be a nice mix of people there.
Awesome. And Mark, tell people where they can see your stuff and see your articles.
So I write food and travel articles for both NECN online and also Dig Boston, both online and in print. And that's also food and travel. And also I do work on the Hidden Boston site, which is restaurant reviews. But these days, not much in the way of reviews. So it's kind of on hold right now.
Yeah, we have the same problem here with Out with Joe, not hitting a lot of restaurants. Mark, thanks for stopping by Out with Joe. I appreciate the coverage here.
Thanks so much, Joe.
And thank you for joining us.
15 seconds, and we get Ken from Bolton. Stand by.
OutWithJoe.com. We've suspended the Music Minute for the time being. Please support your local musicians. We do. Follow us on social media platforms at Out with Joe. Out with Joe has been brought to you by Levante's Auto School with 5 locations, one near you.
You're listening to the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Powerhouse Station WCRN and our affiliates. To talk to Joe, dial 508-871-7000, and you can text Joe on air in real time at 617-297-8388, or email textjoeontheradio@gmail.com. And now back to the most interesting man in the world. When he drives a car off a lot, the value goes up. Common sense talk for the common sense citizen.
All right, folks, welcome back to the second half of the first hour of the Sunday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show from the Dropbox Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. CPAC was going on this weekend. President Trump spoke. He alluded to running. He talked about bringing back things and making things. Of course, ended the speech with "We will make America great again," the mega slogan, of course. And he talked about bringing back building the wall immediately within weeks, and pointed out how asinine it was. He said, it took years. 11 lawsuits were brought against the Trump administration to stop building a wall, to secure the border, which has no logic in principle as to why to stop building a wall, in a border wall or barrier. Just, people get into the semantics. Well, it's not a wall, it's a brick in it. It's a border. And whether parts of it is brick, parts of it a wall, parts of it a natural barrier, it doesn't matter. Here's our border. It's a sovereign border. You don't illegally cross it. We bring in over 1 million people a year illegally into the country. And he said he thought, well, they're just going to finish it, right? It's a matter of weeks, a few little holes to plug up. And Biden stopped that. One of the very first things he did, for no other reason other than it was a Trump project. And that narrow-minded stupidity has caused problems all across. Look at the chain reaction of closing down the Keystone Pipeline and causing our nation to go from energy independent and exporter to hat in hand to OPEC. And they're rotting in the desert, rotting on the border, costing taxpayers $5 million a day not to build the wall instead of letting it just go through. And Biden even messed up the Abraham Accords he's trying to screw up. He stops the sales to the United Emirates. He insults Egypt. He absolutely is trying to undo everything that was done, and he can't admit it. And the stay in Mexico policy, they finally admitted that they're going to have to bring that back. Now, one more thing I want to get into and talk about was that he brought up in his speech, because I have talked about this, folks, that how many times have I said to you that at polling places, there should be no computers, no electronic voting whatsoever. People go, we go fight, elect online. And no, anything that's a computer on the internet is hackable. And Donald Trump said it last night, paper ballots. You want to secure an election, go to paper ballots. And he brought up something I didn't even know, that Canada is going to paper ballots. I don't know. We'll talk about that later. Put a pin in that. I've always said that you go to the polling place. There's no reason in the world that the counting machine, which is the most basic computer in the world, is a simple analog counting machine. You slide a piece of paper, a ballot in it, a little clicker goes 1, 2, 3. That's it. There's no reason for that machine to be connected to the internet. And we should be checking or Xing or filling in the circle or doing the chit. Remember the chits in Florida? But paper ballots, and the former president brought that up last night, and I was thrilled to hear him say that, because if you really want it, and that when he's back in office, it is what he was alluding to, we will have voter ID. And if we have voter ID in paper ballots, even Barack Obama said, if it's like that, because we don't have one big election, folks, we have 50 little elections. And if you want to secure the elections, you need voter ID. You need the simplest process of voting, paper ballots, not electronic, not screens or anything. You have to be paper ballot, nothing that can be hacked, nothing that's connected to the internet, period. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. Let's go to Zachary in Ohio. Good morning, Zachary. Are you listening on TuneIn?
Oh, hell yeah, I am.
Okay. Awesome. Welcome. First time caller, Zachary?
Maybe.
All right. With the secrecy. What's going on?
It's my wife. She made a burrito. She decided to plunge it into the toilet and use it as a toilet plunger, and I will divorce her right in front of you in this phone line, broadcasted to millions of viewers.
Yeah, that's a little off topic there, Zachary. Right? Maybe you don't have the right show.
You want me to talk about?
Well, we're talking about the CPAC yesterday. We're talking about the war in Ukraine. Did you happen to catch that?
Said he was listening live.
I sure did. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make sure to buy gas supplies only from Ukraine so that their economy plummets.
Plummets.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure that's what we want to do here, Zachary. Maybe you need to check out, what we're talking about, what's going on in the world, reset, and then you're welcome to call back. But thanks for listening online. Let's go to Ken in Bolton. Ken, how's your wife doing?
Sleeping away.
Awesome.
I'm the
awesome.
early bird. She's the night owl.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, that
you
was
see-
definitely different.
That
That's
was
all.
different. Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows what that was?
In my call screen, sexual relations or something like that. What did you put up there, Shane? What was it?
He had stuff regarding sexual relations with children going on in the news currently.
Okay, which is a fine topic, because it's a topic I care about. And by the way, the Trump administration did incredible stuff with child trafficking and sexual abuse to children that the media never got into. But there are some great organizations, SOSA and so forth, out there. A matter of fact, I think it was last weekend, I had the story about the Microsoft executive who got pinched by Minneapolis civilians who run a chat room trying to catch pedophilias, and they caught him, and he's been let go from Microsoft. I don't know if you remember that, Ken, that story I did, but it is a big problem. That's a huge problem. And we have thousands and thousands of South American, or not necessarily South American kids, because they're coming from all over the globe, but we have tens of thousands, if not hundreds of young people underage, teenagers and younger, showing up, coming across the southern border with people who aren't their parents or just coming over. How many videos did we see of kids being dropped over the wall? Right? How many stories were there of just finding 8-year-olds and 7-year-olds and 10-year-olds in the middle of the border area, or looking for somebody, or running towards the border guards? So that's a huge problem, and we don't spend a lot of time or attention on the underground sex trafficking of minors in this country, and it's a disgusting thing that's happening every day. But anyway, Ken.
Yeah, it's too bad he hadn't jumped to the topic.
Yeah,
you laid out hopefully what he was looking to bring up.
Yeah, and if he could have got there, we didn't have time to navigate that. But Zachary, if you'd like to gather your thoughts and come back on and articulate them, wonderful. Did you watch any of CPAC over the weekend?
Yeah. Well, I watched a number of different people that were at part of it for about an hour and a half, and then I watched all the speech of
Donald Trump. Yeah. So do you see the part where he talked about paper ballots? I'm like, I'm like, yes, thank you. You're right, Mr. President. I have been saying this for years. Get the darn computers out of the voting polls, get our counting boxes, get our paper ballots and voter ID. And I would have so much more faith in the integrity of our elections if we had at least those two things going on.
Of course, we have to realize that isn't done at the federal level. That has to be done in every 50 states.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of this story of, sorting things out, what certain people can do and other people need to do. But anyway, it is Sunday, and it's time for the Hall of Fame and Hall of Shame.
Sure. All right.
And let's be obvious. These two nominees dwarf any of the preceding nominees. It's like, that was junior play, all that we've talked about up until this week. Because everybody knows who the Hall of Shame is. Duh, Putin.
Yeah.
And everybody knows who the Hall of Fame is. Zelensky.
Absolutely. And look, at Putin is Hitler incarnate. This guy is off his rocker. It's evil, right? You see the interviews, Ken. These Ukrainian people, women crying. There's one in particular that got to me when she's saying, he's crazy. He's crazy. He's evil. Who would think that you would do this? Who does this? And, and they're shocked. They're shocked that who they consider, Ukrainians consider Russians their brethren. I mean, they speak the same language. Their DNA is kind of the same. It's all within, right? But they are a sovereign nation. And then why? Just because in 2022 we have a crazed tyrant who has just decided that I'm going to take this land. He did it with Crimea. He did it with Georgia. And now he's like, this is it. Nobody's going to stop me. And then for him to put that not so veiled threat that anybody who gets in his way, right, that will be rained down upon them. I mean, he didn't say the word, but you have to assume he's inferring nuclear options. And that is real, people. Stuff just got real. And Zelensky is amazing, right? This guy won't leave. They have propaganda out there, Ken, and saying he's gone and he's this, and he has to keep popping up, saying, I'm not gone. I'm here. My cabinet's here. My citizens are here. Glory to Ukraine. We will fight. And that, I think, has given the people that rallying cry and that hope that they need, that here's their leader who's not running, not hiding, not hopping in the helicopter with $1 billion falling out of the door, but he's moving around. I mean, he can't sit there like a sitting duck either, Ken, but he's got to keep moving.
He's been brilliant.
Yeah.
This past week, let's just hit all the things that first off, we live in a woke world. This guy has a pair.
And then some.
Let's think about this in a historical setting. Think before the last 500 years of enlightenment, what preceded that. You had kings. You had corrupt kings. You had people who lorded over people, the serfs. Okay? Who did a king have beside him many times at the dinner table?
Well,
court jester, right?
Court jester. And there
That's
was always...
who Zelensky is.
Yeah.
He's our court jester. Now, we think historically, court jester, he's just a funny guy. No. Go back to the stories of the court jester. What often happened to the court jester? The court jester frequently was sent to never be seen ever again or killed. Why? Because the court jester would mock the king, make fun of the king.
Yeah.
Many times it would go too far. That's what this guy's doing. This is the spirit of this guy.
Yeah. You said that
there's a very good chance he's not alive in a week's time. But let me tell you, if he's still alive in a week's time, that is spectacular news to the world.
Yeah. Well, look at they try to say come to these peace talks in Belarus, and he's like, yeah, I'm all for some peace talks, but I ain't going to a Russian controlled country like Belarus. No, it ain't happening. He's never going to come back from Belarus. I'm sorry, Belarus. He's never going to come back from Belarus. You know what I'm saying?
And guess who should be, Joe? Guess who should be the next target for all these sanctions?
Oh well, Belarus. Yeah, I agree. Absolutely, because that's a puppet regime, and they're giving him the staging areas. And I go back to there's the red flags after red flags. The Crimea, he takes Crimea. What do you think that's about, right? He does this military exercise in Belarus, and nobody says anything about that, and he doesn't remove them.
And Joe, do you know what the line was back then in 2014? Oh, Putin wants a warm water port because it's Crimea is on the Black Sea.
Well, you know what?
Look at the map.
You know what? I want oceanfront properties. Does that mean I can take Barack Obama's compound on Martha's Vineyard?
The argument is ridiculous. Look at the map. He already.
I got it. He's got plenty of ports. That's not the.
That was BS.
It's all BS. It's all BS. So definitely yes, Zelensky, Hall of Fame, no questions. This guy, he's a hero to me right now. I love this guy. I mean, he's doing it all right, the right way, right? America offers him an escape pod type of thing. He says, "No, I don't need a ride, man. I don't need a ride. I need ammunition.
I need ammunition."
And why are we trying to help Putin by removing Zelensky from the country? That's the whole thing Putin wants to do. What the heck are we doing trying to make it easy?
You don't want to make anything easy for Putin.
Nothing. You know, and I guess he's really kind of lost it now. I'm watching these interviews, and he's been so bizarre with the COVID, right? So he's already been in seclusion. I'm talking about Putin, people. Putin's in seclusion. If you wanted to see him, you had to wait weeks upon weeks in isolation, and they get sprayed with these chemicals before you could get near him. Now, I wouldn't let anybody from Russia spray me with chemicals. I mean, this guy put poison in people's underwear and to get at him, right? So I wouldn't trust anything in that. But so he's just a little crazy and not himself. But I got to hold you there because we got more calls, Ken. Good on the nominations. Thanks for the shame. Thanks for the Hall of Fame, folks. Joe Mangiacotti Show. We have a few more minutes till 7 o'clock. Then, of course, Mike Wade comes in with Conservatively Speaking. I'm Joe Mangiacotti from the Boxtrap Middlesex Mattress Outlet Studios. Let's go to Fred in Worcester. He's been waiting patiently. Good morning, Fred.
Joe.
You look
Joe,
marvelous.
my friend. How you doing?
Good.
How you been?
Excellent. What's on your mind? Did you watch any of CPAC?
No.
All right.
Unfortunately, I missed it. Hey, so the other day when Joe Biden, is the Supreme Court, nomination.
Right.
Do you remember back in 2003,
Yes.
George Bush, he nominated this woman
Yes.
to be on the D.C. Circuit Court.
Absolutely. And
And,
Joe Biden stopped her, baby.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she was a black woman.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe Biden came right out and said to George Bush that he would torpedo any attempt of George Bush to nominate a black woman for the Supreme Court. He would torpedo it. Now all of a sudden he's putting a black woman on there. Kind of has to make you wonder, exactly how much really of a fraud he is.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with what you're saying here. He stopped that. Not if he was so concerned with it, but his history is, Fred.
Mm-hmm.
He has only bought into this woke and the right stuff lately, and even in this last presidential election, he still made asinine comments and racial comments,
yes,
and got
did.
a pass for them. Right? If you're not voting for Biden, you ain't black, right? He talked about that. He made stupid statements. He does it over and over again, but he's got a D next to his name. He buys woke points with his other rhetoric, so he gets a pass. If Donald Trump had ever said any of these things about my kid school in the jungle, and you can't go into a 7-Eleven, right, unless you have one of these accents, and all of these, they're going to put you all back in chains, right? All these things, and he gets a pass on it. And then we go back to the Democratic debates for the 2020 election, right? And Kamala Harris goes right for him, right? Cuts him off at the knees first with the story about the busing and the little girl, and that little girl was me, and he calls, and rightly so, calls him out for his anti-busing legislation and what he did against busing back in the day. And she calls him a racist. And then she also says that she believes the accuser who talked about what he did in the halls of the Senate. So she calls him a racist and a rapist in one debate. And then we are supposed to accept a few months later, out of all of the potential talent that exists in the Democratic Party throughout the country, that Kamala Harris is the VP nominee who did that and said that about him. So I maintain it was never his decision. We know there's an invisible hand there. I think it's Barack Obama. Some people agree, some people don't. But
I would have to agree.
But there were so many other people, including women, who were Amy Klobuchar, maybe. I mean, I'm not a big fan of her, but Tulsi Gabbard. I mean, I'd vote for Tulsi Gabbard, right? From Hawaii. Remember the congresswoman from Hawaii? And she was in the service. I like her. I thought she was awesome. There were so many other potential candidates there, Fred. But
the
yeah,
Republicans have to take back the Congress and the Senate.
Yes.
Or because there's no way this country can survive 4 years of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris unless there's pushback from the Republicans. This country just can't survive.
No. And all we need all the Republicans need in the House is a net 5. Now you have 30. There are 30 Democrats in the midterms, right, coming up here now in 2022, who are not seeking re-election or seeking a different office. That's 30 positions between the Senate and the House that are open seats that majority, if not all, majority of them should go to Republicans.
Yeah.
So the House should have a substantial majority lead, not just the majority in the House, but a majority lead that even could sustain vetoes.
1 minute.
In essence, that's your job. And then the Senate should also have a healthy margin as well. But we are coming up to the end of the hour, Fred, so I'm going to have to hold you there. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for calling. And
bye, Joe.
Bye, Fred. Thank you. All right, folks, we're going to break. Come back on the other side for Conservatively Speaking with Mike Wade will join us for that and take us till 9. Peter Blute takes us to 12 noon. And again, I'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock and then this Friday at 1 o'clock. And going forward, March going forward, the Joe Mangiacotti Show will be heard on the bookend weekends, Mondays and Fridays at 1, Sunday mornings at 6 a.m. as usual. Hey, stick with us. Back on the other side.